I'm Marle. This channel exists to connect gamers to MMOs they'll love. In this series, I play an old-school, non-instance, group-based, refreshingly deep MMORPG called Arelith. Thank you for watching, and subscribe for more MMO content. Remember in the first episode in which I asked you to remember the name of the first character in this list? There was a reason. I already had a character named Marle. When I created this episodic tune, I used the same name. However, because an entry already existed in Arelith's database, my new character wasn't saved. I have to delete the first Marle to remake the second. Moreover, the server refreshes once every day or so, forcing me to wait either for the reset or remake a temporary tune with a different name. I chose the latter route and created Marle without an E. Thankfully, this persistent world has a great support portal by which you can request a range of services to be handled from their DM team, including a name change. Remember the hair color bug in the first episode? I now know when and where it happens. After creating your character, once Continue is selected, my character's body scale and hair tone is altered. Hopefully, a developer can address this issue because it feels discombobulating. I should mention that a few Arelith veterans have suggested the following to new players. Number 1, do not distribute skill points during level 1 and 2. Number 2, never select the recommended skills button. And 3, select very safe feats. For example, that's expertise for melee fighters or extend spell for casters, because it is very difficult for support staff to make changes to your character before level 3 should the need arise. Since you can hold on to skill points between levels, like I have, there's no risk in waiting a few more minutes. I realize these recommendations go against the assumption the game presents to you during character creation, yet that's part of the charm of an older game. I walk back into the center of Scalyard and you can see the other players. Some details about them are available for your character to intuit, such as Urian's healthiness, or that the smaller humanoid can only be discerned loosely as a dwarf. Each of these observations hints of deeper mechanics, and we'll cover them when they become important. You can post notices on in-game boards ranging from adventuring requests, crafting opportunities, to accusing others of wrongdoing. I walk into the mayor's administrative office. This is significant because, in my second episode, I failed to pay attention to the floating text above my tune that said, go to the mayor to level up to 3. Every level, especially in the early game, matters. The mayor grants level 3 and offers a range of writs, airless versions of quests, that are level appropriate. The server has been rebalancing rewards for them, and I'm excited to check them out. Veterans can explain what has changed in particular and why writs are worth doing even for higher leveled characters. These quests are less like WoWs and more like Guild Wars 1 in that they tell you where important PvE areas are to explore. He gives you a piece of paper that tells you which writs you have in case you forget. Remember it because it becomes important soon. Players can also rent merchant stalls or these caravan trolleys. You may find something useful and affordable, so they're always worth checking. If you're lucky, you can rent one yourself to sell your wares. Also, players build, place, and stock these barrels with supplies for newbies. Arelith players can be very friendly and accommodating. Like in Classic EverQuest, you can inspect players, which gives you generic details about their character depending on their clothes and your spot skill. Yes, you can disguise yourself for both utilitarian and nefarious purposes. I walk across the bridge and open the door to the bazaar. There's another excellent loading screen, and the background music is perfect. I type 1,000 to the banker to receive a loan that will need to be repaid, yet it is enough for me to buy a starting set of gear, which is something I forgot to do.
Good day to you.
Since I'm a spellsword with high dexterity, I emphasize lighter armor because doing so reduces the chance to fail casting a spell while providing additional armor class from my dex bonus.
Hi!
Also, see Appraise in the console? Characters can invest in this skill to potentially double the sales value of items. Note, like in Ultima Online, NPCs are picky about what they'll buy, and in the series we'll cover each accordingly. I leave the bazaar, walk across the bridge to purchase as many healing kits as I can afford from the priest. The plus number tells you how many additional hit points are automatically granted after your heal skill plus a 1d20 has been counted. For now, +1 will do. You can also craft them, yet my character doesn't know how. I walk over to a side door of the bazaar, thinking it will lead to an area described in my writ. I cast Imbue Weapon and choose Fire instead of Magical to experiment. And I activate Expertise for additional armor class. What's lurking for me just behind this door? I peer into the basement level of the bazaar and am suddenly ambushed by insects and rats. I forgot to buff myself prior to entry, and we are outnumbered. Thankfully, I do land a few well-placed hits to thin out their numbers. However, I suffer a tremendous blow from the beetle and need to heal. Moreover, it kills Mira, leaving me to fend for myself. Thankfully, I am able to squash their threat, albeit damaged. I try to rest, yet cannot, due to the presence of enemies, so I walk back out the door to safety. It's here that I realize that I also failed to memorize any spells. I add those I think will be the most useful, and am finally able to rest. I enter the basement again and cast a few defensive buffs. They mostly add to my AC or reduce the chance of a melee hit being successful against me. If you're curious as to what they specifically do, ask in the comments and a veteran will explain far better than I could. Moreover, veterans of Arelith, for new players to spell swords, which spells are recommended to have memorized in the early game at Scout? I hit tab to scan to see if other enemies are nearby. I'm able to only pull the stink beetle. I particularly love the animations during melee engagements. Notice that a missed swing can cause the opponent to duck, or a lunge is blocked by the character's sword since she doesn't have a shield. These little yet important details add to the fantastic world building of Arelith. I'm able to land a critical hit, which I believe is automatically double the damage. I additionally remember that Mira is summonable, and I call for her help. You can immediately see the value of having at least one pet. Veterans of Arelith can provide additional detail, yet one obvious benefit is, at least in the early game, we have double the amounts of attacks per turn and the opportunity to off-tank. Let me explain what I mean by per turn. Arelith is functionally a turn-based game in that once combat commences, a special rule set is applied to all actions. Each turn provides each involved character opportunities to attack. The more levels you have, the more actions you can complete. I'm oversimplifying, yet many tactics and strategies utilize knowledge of how turns mechanically work to your benefit. Mara and I sneak into a larger storage area filled with a pack of giant rats and a mane. Most of my buffs have already run their course by now, and my initial magic attack is not as impactful as I hope. Trying again, I fail my concentration check, and rats successfully land their attacks of opportunity. Moreover, there's a green cloud circling behind us, and I'm not entirely sure why it's there, yet I presume it's an effect of the tanky mane. Luckily, we're victorious. Mara and I approach a closed door without knowledge of what's behind it, an empty room. What's behind the next door? This battle looks far too difficult for Mira and me, so I shut the door and walk away. Perhaps we'll revisit here later. Also, see the dust cloud? A seemingly new feature is the sprint ability that increases your run speed momentarily. It's at this time that I realize that I have not seen any updates to my writ, so I examined the piece of paper the mayor gave to me and learned that I'm in the wrong place. I'm not disappointed because I have enjoyed exploring this basement and testing my character's ability to solo. I notice there's a new type of beetle with a group of rats. Without knowing how difficult the new insect is, we advance. Early signs are positive. I decide to use Intimidate, and it presumably works. The blue fireballs above the mob's heads seems to show the skill's influence, which I believe lowers their AC by 1. Veterans can correct me in the comments or add additional insight. We are victorious. We continue down the hall and see a large metal door. It seems out of place. What's behind it? Corpses and animal remains. This world building is suggesting I'm nearing a boss room and I'm nervous. To prepare for the fight, I rest. Doing so removes all my enchantments and leaves me vulnerable and nearly blind. What's that sound? Watch the next episode to find out. Thanks for watching.